So before I got to talk to Norm here in Las Vegas, I was in Florida once, and I didn't go see this one show he did at a university. It was a private university. It was a religious university, I think. And and he got up there, and what I was told later was he was doing so badly with these religious students that he just said, my contract says I have to stand up here for 45 minutes. So I'm just going to stand here until 45 minutes are up. And then he looked at his watch and then waited until the 45 minutes were up and then left. And then that story was told to me by a publicist or somebody that was associated with that university. And then I laughed. And then I said, that Norm is a genius. And she goes, I had to walk around with him all day. I wouldn't call him a genius. But I think that's where a lot of people don't totally get Norm's genius. His genius was in being ridiculous. I think one of his albums was called Ridiculous, right? I don't think that he made any bones about the fact that he was ridiculous. Very often, I don't make any bones about being ridiculous. I enjoy it. I'm like, sometimes I feel like a performing monkey, and that's not super great, but I definitely feel ridiculous. So I loved Norm. Norm was my favorite SNL character of all time. One of my top 5 interviews over and over. We talked so many times. And then all day I kept thinking, should I do something about Norm? Should I do some kind of obituary type thing or some kind of remembrance? And I just felt like it would be wrong. And then I kept thinking it would be wrong. But then I thought, this is my last chance to say goodbye, Norm. Normmacdonald died today, and we didn't even know that he was sick. Died of cancer. I've been gutted all day by it. I keep thinking I'm just going to do some work and it's fucking weird, when famous people die and you, feel affected. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But the thing about Norm is that I actually talked to him a bunch, and I'm not saying I was his best friend or one of his poker buddies, I never hung out with him and played poker or did anything. He didn't drink. He didn't do drugs, I guess that's what he said. I don't know. I'm guessing he was telling the truth. He was a real sweetheart guy. One of the guys, so one time I was talking to this guy who started a charity, and I said, how'd you start the charity? And he said, well, I moved to Los Angeles and I was rolling around in my wheelchair and I was going down this one street and I saw Normmacdonald and I ran into him. And I said, Norm, I've always wanted to be in entertainment. Can you get me in entertainment? And Norm goes, no, I can't get you in. But this guy over here, I'll give you somebody who can. And Norm hooked up this random guy who ran into him in a wheelchair, with Sam Simon of The Simpsons, one of the greatest show producers of all times, and probably my favorite interview I ever did with anybody that was in charge of shows. Sam Simon was incredible. And then Sam helped the guy in the wheelchair create this charity. And then that charity would come to Vegas every year, and then they would raise money for this charity. And then Norm would go. And then one time the guy in the wheelchair who started that charity was sitting next to Norm, and Norm goes, hey, I'm going to go to the bathroom or something. And then he left, and he said, here, watch for my money. And he said, here's my chips. And then the guy who started the guy in the wheelchair who started the charity, Jacob lost a lot of his money. And then Norm came back and he's like, oh, you lost my money. But whatever, Norm didn't care. Because Norm told me once that every time he came to Vegas, he would win a bunch of money or lose money. But one time he was up $186,000. And then it was time for him to go get a plane. So he took that money. He took the chips. He took $186,000 in chips off the table. He was playing whatever, table game. He sticks it in his luggage. So then he flies to Los Angeles, puts the chips in the freezer, $186,000 in gambling chips in a freezer in Normmacdonald's house in Los Angeles. And then he quit gambling on table games, he claimed, for 2.5 years. But then I talked to him after that, and he was like, I still got all these chips in my freezer, you know? So I guess, I guess the next time I go back to Vegas, I guess it's just going to gamble. And this is Norm. Norm told my very favorite Las Vegas joke. He goes, if you're the prettiest woman in Des Moines, Iowa, they'll build a statue in your honor. But if you move to Las Vegas, you're a cocktail waitress. And that's not a joke about Des Moines or Iowa or cocktail waitresses or any of that. The joke is very contextual to Las Vegas, which is if you go to Encore Beach Club or someplace like that in Las Vegas, the women are the most beautiful people you've ever seen in your entire life. I was at Encore once in the VIP section. I'm not trying to brag or whatever. It's just where I was. And then the entire Victoria's Secret models came in. And so I saw the Victoria's Secret models being served by the cocktailers who were way hotter than the Victoria's Secret models. That's how pretty women are in Vegas. And so this joke, my favorite Las Vegas joke, is this Des Moines, Iowa joke that Norm told. And I'm sure that Norm would probably be upset that I'm even telling you why the joke is funny, but you kind of have to know what Vegas. He told that joke to me, or to an audience in Las Vegas, and, you know, the Vegas people understood what was going on. I never asked Norm about his dating life or any of that stuff. I don't know why, because Norm seemed so asexual in a way. Like I just never looked at him and thought like, oh, he really gets around, you know. But I mean, he had a kid, so I guess he did. I don't know who his person was. What's really crazy is Norm told me once that he didn't have a driver's license and that he thought he would have one before his son, but he didn't. And that someday he planned to get one, but I don't think he ever did. I think it was too late for him. My sister doesn't have a driver's license either, which is, I don't understand. So, but Norm would show his green card because he was from Canada. So here's Norm with no driver's license, and he gets a job on TV in ads promoting auto insurance. And then after that, he was in a movie with Dave Chappelle where he had to be in a car. There was a scene where he had to film where he was in a car, but he couldn't drive. So they put him into the driver's thing, and then they attached the car to a truck, and the truck was pulling the car, and he was just sitting there with the steering wheel, and he fell asleep. And then the director didn't even notice until they were looking at the dailies. I loved that Norm. Anyway, I don't know what else to say about Norm. I think it sucks that he's dead, and I hope that we cure cancer at some point. Funniest guy on SNL. Not the most talented guy on SNL, but the funniest. Bye, Norm.